well, it looks like it's officially noon. I feel like I should have that bell to ring. I might have to go track that down, I guess. Still over at the Best Western. So good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining us today on July 30, Rotary meeting of Newport. Keith has the patriotic background for the pledge. Keith, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thanks, Keith, and thanks for that flag background. That's perfect. So let's see, do we have any guests today? I see one who's our program, which we'll introduce here in a few minutes. Hi, Lucinda. She's muted now, but we'll get introduce her in just a few minutes. And so as far as announcements today, I was hoping that Amy would be on to talk about that Solve Beach cleanup. I think that's coming up just a week from Saturday.
Yeah, Freddie, she emailed me this morning. She's at a location with no internet. So she just asked me to remind people about it, which is, Saturday, August 8th from 9 to 11. It happens on 3 locations: Beverly Beach, Nye Beach, and South Beach. And South Beach still needs a captain. So if they could, email me or Amy about that, that'd be great. I'm going to resend that link because you have to register with Solve, and then you can pick one of the 3 locations. So August 8th, one of the 3 beaches, 9 through 11.
Can you give us an idea of what the captain would have to do?
Yeah, the captain would have to, it's really not a lot. All I have to do is organize the volunteers, read the instructions, which you will have, and then come up with a place for the garbage when everyone brings back the garbage.
Oh.
Oh, it sounds like a great job for you.
But where would I put the garbage?
Well, you just need I don't know. You just need to find a spot, and then Thompson's will pick it up.
Oh, okay. I was envisioning myself like stocking people's dumpsters in town. And
oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think
I was gonna do South Beach, so maybe if you can't find another captain, I'll do it.
All right, that's where I'm going to be too. Maybe we can co-captain.
And take the garbage to your house?
or your house.
Yeah, yesterday I signed up for South Beach and there was only 2 out of 15 slots filled. So it must be me and John so far. So Julie, you'll be a great captain, I think. So anyway, yeah, it's just a couple hours a week from Saturday. I think that'll be a good activity to actually get outside and get some fresh air. So another announcement I was going to make is we had a good vocational committee meeting, and I think the vocational committee is going to be a lot of fun this year. Diane is the chair of the committee. Diane, did you want to talk a little bit about what's coming up with vocational?
Sure. Thank you, Freddie. We had our inaugural meeting, and the 2 committee members that came to the meeting were our Lola and Doris, and Freddie was there, and then Dale Smith, who previously chaired the committee when it was very active. He was on and gave us a whole bunch of ideas. We interchanged ideas, and it was a wonderful, wonderful meeting. Everybody has great ideas, and our initial plan is to poll the members and meet on Zoom. And maybe I can explain as quickly as I can what the purpose of the committee is, and we're going to start doing it like Dale did it a few years back. But Rotary was started by Paul Harris, and he was an attorney way back when who needed somebody to go to lunch with, because he was in Chicago and people just didn't ask people to go to lunch. So he asked a few of his friends if they would have lunch, and they rotated hence Rotary, rotated the meetings every week at that time. And it was a small, intimate group, just a few people, few professionals, and they got to know each other. They got to know each other's businesses, et cetera, et cetera. And in our regular meetings, we don't talk much about our businesses, and it's the whole group like today. So far we have 25 or 23-ish participants. So it's a chance for Rotarians to get to interact and to know each other and to promote our businesses and to promote how we can help each other in the community. Having said that, we are going to poll the members and find out if they would like to do this and if they would like to come to one more lunch meeting a month and be part of a smaller group of Rotarians in a vocational group. And we're going to go from there. I think I want to stop here because I don't want to take up the whole meeting, but it was great. And we're really, really excited to get this going. Thank you, Freddie.
Yeah, thanks, Diane. So I participated when Dale was running that vocational group, and it was really a lot of fun to have lunch with, people and talk about businesses. And it was great to see Dale again today too. So good way to catch up with people. We were talking about making the most of this Zoom while we have to use it. So some good opportunities to stay in touch with other Rotarians, I think. So any other announcements before we move on?
Freddie?
Yeah.
Next week, we have a Membership Matters Committee meeting at 11 o'clock via Zoom. And I'll be sending out the agenda either later today or tomorrow.
All right. Well, thanks, Laura. So I did my research this morning and I came up with some this day in history items. 1956 today, President Dwight D. Eisenhower signed a law officially declaring "In God We Trust" to be the national official motto, which replaced "E Pluribus Unum." 1965, the Social Security Act was signed by President Lyndon B. Johnson, which established Medicare and Medicaid. So both of Medicare and Medicaid are 55 years old today. 2003, the last of the original Volkswagen Beetles rolled off of the assembly line at Volkswagen's Pueblo, Mexico factory. And last but not least, also celebrating a birthday today is Arnold Schwarzenegger, who is, born in 1947. That makes him 73 or 18 years older than Medicare. So interesting facts for the day. I got that from Mark Miranda when he was president. I enjoyed the educational component of these meetings, so thought I'd share those things.
Governor.
Yeah, the governor. So before we get into the program, also we had two members that were awarded their Paul Harris +1 that I wanted to recognize today, and that would be Diane and Keith Nelson. So today we have the privilege of recognizing two of our club members for their wonderful support of the Rotary Foundation. Keith and Diane Nelson, your contributions to the Rotary Foundation of Rotary International are allaying suffering, improving living conditions, and providing educational opportunities for young people somewhere in the world. Your gifts are truly selfless actions and demonstrate your commitment to our common goals of world understanding and peace. Therefore, on behalf of the President of Rotary International and the Chairman of the Trustees of the Rotary Foundation, it gives me great pleasure to present you a Paul Harris Fellow lapel pin containing 1 sapphire for the +1 in appreciation of your generous contribution to the annual programs fund of Rotary, and on their behalf to extend our sincere thanks. So congratulations, Keith and Diane, for that. And I guess between the two, they're Paul Harris +4, I guess. $4,000 donated between the two of them. So that's great. I think that's a big contribution, and obviously it does a lot of good. So with that said, we'll move on to our program, which is Habitat for Humanity. And I'm happy to introduce Lucinda Taylor, who Julie and I have both had the pleasure of working with on the Habitat board. Lucinda came to us from the community college, and she's implemented some really good things over at Habitat. And I think most importantly, she's kept it operational and up and running through this crazy pandemic that we're all dealing with right now, which was a real challenge. I'm sure she can elaborate on that a little bit, but welcome, Lucinda, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Freddie. I appreciate that. Definitely also appreciate your service, and Julie's on the board of directors, because as most folks know, nonprofits can't really operate without them. So thank you for that. The guidance and the policy decisions and all of that come from the board really help keep us functioning appropriately. So, you know, as Freddie alluded, we definitely had some challenges early on in the year in March when we were forced to close our restores. And we really count on our restores for our operational funding. The goal for the restores is to provide all of the funding to cover administrative costs so that when people give to us, we can dedicate 100% of that to our programs and achieving our mission. We don't always hit that mark, but that's the goal for restore income. And so when our restores closed, we really had a cash flow issue, but thankfully through some grant partners and some of the SBA loans and advances, we were able to make it through that tight area. And now actually we're doing pretty well. We reopened the restores in May, and they were down about 10 to 15% for the first couple months, but now they're almost back up to pre-COVID sales levels. So pretty happy with what's going on there, and you know, the figuring out, navigating this whole thing of masks. Do we require them? We have to require them for our staff, but do we require them for customers? And what's really the best thing for safety? And all of the, you know, getting up all of the right things that we had to do for protection for our customers and our staff and volunteers took a little time and a little navigation, but eventually we made it through that. So, you know, the one thing we're looking at is the potential that the one thing that's a little bit scary still at this point is if we were to have to close one of our or both of our restores again, which could very well happen if someone were to be diagnosed and we had to quarantine everyone. But we're in a good position now. I think the board has provided good guidance, and we are able to set aside some funding to help cover us and carry us through should that happen. So, you know, I'm sure most of you are most interested in what's going on with our townhomes on Pine Street. When will those things be done? Boy, I've been predicting it'll be done in the next month or two. I've been predicting that for at least 6 months. But I think we really are finally in the home stretch. We've had our first final inspection and had a few things come out of that need to be corrected, but nothing major. And then the sidewalk is the last issue that needs to be done, and the city's helping us pay for that. It was because of the slope of the ground, it was going to be about $30,000 to put in that sidewalk because of the engineering and the excavation and everything required. But the city's helping us pay, and the engineering's been approved. So now we're just waiting to get the contractors up there and get that sidewalk in. Once that's done, we should be able to get our certificate of occupancy. We've already started the process with the city of Newport is donating that land. That can't be finalized again until we have the certificate of occupancy, but we've started that process through Western Title. So everything's going to be in place for things to happen fairly smoothly once we finally get the final inspections and everything done. So then it's a matter of selling it to the homeowners. And I've started working on the loan documents and getting things in order so that we can make that happen. One of the benefits of unexpected benefits of being so delayed is we had applied for some down payment assistance grant funding through Habitat Oregon that just became available. And so now we will be able to apply that to these homes, and that'll be a tremendous help. So we'll be seeing potentially $20,000 per unit in down payment assistance that'll help cover some of what would normally be our second mortgage with our homeowners. So for those who don't know, when we sell our homes, we sell them to low-income homeowners at 30% of their income, and that 30% includes paying for taxes and insurance. And then the difference between the sales price, their first mortgage, and the appraised value is then becomes a second mortgage, which gets slowly forgiven over time, helping that homeowner build equity. And so this $20,000 will apply to that second mortgage. So it'll help us because it'll help us build more home. It helps us fund our next build. And then it also helps that homeowner because that portion is basically already going to be forgiven. So, we're looking also at how do we do a dedication in these times of COVID. Normally we would hold a big party and celebrate with our new homeowners, invite everyone who's been involved in helping us. And I know Newport Rotary helped with our outdoor painting, and we definitely appreciate that. And they also have committed to helping with some landscaping, which we may yet call on you to help out with a little bit of that once we get the sidewalk finally in. So how do we do a dedication? Well, we're still working on that. We're going to try and figure out how to do a virtual dedication. And then the other piece is one of our homeowners won't be ready to move in for a couple of months yet. There are some things that need to be figured out there with her. So we will have one side of the townhomes that would be available for tours. So we're going to try and figure out how we can do that in a socially responsible way and with physical distancing and everything, so that folks can maybe come in and see what do these homes look like. So look for more information on that. I'll share that through Freddie and Julie. And as part of the team that helped get us there, you're definitely going to be invited to come participate in that. So, you know, and I would be remiss if I didn't put a shout out to Lucchini Construction, who really stepped up to the plate last year when our construction manager left last March, well, a year ago March, and Justin Lucchini called and said, hey, how can we help get this done? And he's paid his men to be there to help us finish that out and build out the rest of the interior and help manage that build. And he's working with all the subcontractors to correct any final issues that came out of that final inspection. So he's been a tremendous, tremendous supporter, way above and beyond what we had expected. I think way above and beyond what he expected, quite honestly. But he's stuck it through with us. So our next build will be in Lincoln City, the land that was donated by Lincoln County. That's in the Garden Estate subdivision in the Palisades area, up near the golf course on the north end of town. They donated 2 parcels of land, and if you've seen the newspaper lately, we received grant funding from the Oregon Housing and Community Services through the Housing Stability Council, $140,000 in LIFT grant funding to help us with those builds. That almost gets us to half the funding. We like to raise half of what we need before we break ground. That almost does it right there. We also have some funding from the city of Lincoln City. As long as it doesn't disappear due to budget cuts with COVID, then they've put into their budget $75,000 for pre-construction, and we're working right now with their Office of Economic Development to access those funds to get us started on the pre-construction as soon as possible. Part of the LIFT grant funding is we can't be too far along before we close on that, and that evidently takes 3 to 5 months. So what we're planning for is breaking ground in January that's our latest hope for breaking ground, possibly sooner if we can get all our ducks in a row in time. But before we can do that, we need to select our families, because we don't start building, we don't decide how many rooms are going to be in the home until we know who the families are and how many rooms do they need. So we need to build large enough for the family, but not larger than they need. That's part of helping keep it affordable. The other piece of that is if we were to select a homeowner who had some mobility issues or some other special needs, we want to make sure that we include that in the design of the home. So we really can't finalize design until we select those families. So we're working right now on getting our application ready. We're planning to open that application process in mid-September. So we're also looking at how do we revise our homeowner selection process. Normally, we'd go out through the community and we'd be advertising far and wide to say, hey, do you qualify? Do you meet these income levels, the minimums and the maximums? We're recruiting probably for folks who earn between 45 to 60% of our area median income based on their family size. So anybody who meets those income guidelines is going to be invited to apply. But we can't really be doing these big community information sessions like we normally would. So we're working on how are we going to do that effectively and what will that look like. So that's part of what we're working on right now. Something that's going to be a little different for these homes. One of the recent decisions of the board, well, partially because when the county gave us the land, there's a restriction that it has to remain permanently affordable for a minimum of 40 years. And then the LIFT grant funding, actually the county required 30 years, but the LIFT grant funding requires a minimum of 40 years. So what does permanent affordability mean? And then I put these 30 or 40 year terms out there. That's not very permanent, right? Well, the goal is the land is held in a land trust or land lease. So Habitat will actually maintain ownership of the land, but we'll sell the improvements to the family. So they'll buy the home itself. And that helps with a lower purchase price. So the way there's a preset formula that will determine the next purchase price. There's a restriction that goes right on the deed that requires that the future homeowner has to meet low income qualifications, just like our first homeowner. So there's a permanent restriction on the deed that only low income homeowners can purchase this. And the increase in the purchase price is controlled through this preset formula. So what that means is we'll base the first purchase price on that 30% of the homeowner's income, and then it can only increase by 25% of the increased value of the home between the time we sold it to the first person and the time they sell it to the next. So it still helps that homeowner build some equity. They'll get back their the principal portion of their mortgage payments, as well as this 25% of the increase in the equity of the value of the home. But that also then keeps the price low enough so that the next homeowner can afford it. So it's an exciting new model that helps really, I think, helps steward the contributions of our community in a more long-term fashion to help make sure that we have long-term affordable housing in our community. As it stands right now, all of our current homes, when that homeowner decides to sell, they can sell it at market value, and it now it's no longer in the affordable housing inventory. It's just part of our general inventory. So this new model makes sure that these homes remain in that affordable market inventory. So what else do we need to know? So one of the things we're doing right now is we are also looking for a residential construction contractor to help us oversee the project management of our next build. So if any of you know someone who might be interested in working with Habitat to help us build this home affordably, we would definitely be interested in hearing from them. I've started doing a little bit of outreach, and we'll start doing more of that, but part of that is spreading the word, saying, hey, there's this opportunity. If you know of anyone, please have them reach out to me. Again, we hope to break ground in January, and then our completion is projected for the end of 2022. So our homeowners would have about a 2-year period to put in their sweat equity. We would help connect them up with an IDA account where they can start saving for their down payment and maybe get some matching funds through an IDA program, which is an individual development account. They have certain training pieces that they need to go through. They need to go through a financial foundations course so that they can learn how to manage their funds and learn how to, there's a home ownership course they need to go through that helps them recognize not just the process and everything that goes into it, but also some of the things once you are a homeowner, you need to be ready to pay for repairs and upkeep, maintenance, that kind of thing, which most of our families clearly they're coming from rental histories and aren't quite aware of everything that's required to maintain a home here on the coast. So they go through some training and some education to help prepare them for home ownership, both financially as well as just upkeep. The other things that we're doing, we have our critical home repair program, which helps low-income homeowners who have small issues on their homes that if we could fix like a small piece of siding that's starting to go bad and help keep that from spreading and help them stay in their homes. That's something we can do with our critical home repair program. The biggest request we get really is for ramps for those who have mobility impairments, that kind of thing. We really focus on smaller kinds of projects. We can't really do roofing. We just aren't. We don't have the qualified skilled workforce or the funding to be able to replace roofs, but we try to take care of if there's a small leak that we can take care of, we try to do that. That was on hold for two reasons. One, we had a lack of funding, and two, with COVID, we're really not allowing people to go into homes right now. So we'll wait until phase 2 before we allow any of our staff or volunteers to go into private residences. But we did get good news in that we just received some funding through the Lincoln County, their grant for the Social Services Fund. We received a little funding from there. And then we just got news too that we received some funding from the Siletz Tribal Charitable Contribution Fund to help pay for that program. So we're starting to loosen up a little bit. We have a wait list that we'll be working with to prioritize what kind of things first are outside of the home that we can start working on right now, and then what are the other repairs inside, and have them ready to roll as soon as we're able to start going into homes again. We have some other grant applications out there pending with some other organizations. That program is has a continual need for funding. We always have more people who need help than we have money to help. And we use those funds to pay. We have a part-time construction manager, and he works with volunteers to make those repairs as affordable as possible. But what we use the funding for is to pay for the materials, or if it's something that we can't do because it requires a certified individual, such as plumbing or electrical repairs or something like that, we can subcontract to get those done. And typically we can find someone who will do that with a little bit of a discount for us and help get that fixed. But for the most part, the funds are used to pay for materials. So lumber and nails and whatever equipment we might need for whatever that repair might be. So that's kind of a very quick overview of what's going on with us right now. I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Diane had a question.
Thank you, Freddie. I was just trying to figure out how to raise my hand. Lucinda, I just think it's wonderful what you and Habitat are doing. And I will send you an email. I do have an idea for a builder, but I haven't been in contact with the builder. But I'll do that. And I remember when we were painting and we met the two women that are going to inhabit the house here in Newport. And I guess I'm just wondering, are they still the same women? And if you could just talk a little bit about that, maybe, I don't know if you can talk about their backgrounds for the rest of the members, but it was just wonderful having them there when we were painting.
They're fabulous, and yes, they are definitely still the same women who are scheduled to move into these homes. So the one that we hope to close in August, if all goes well with certificate of occupancy and all of that, she is a single mother. When she applied, she had 2 children living at home. One has since graduated from high school. She still has her, I believe, grade schoolers, maybe 6th grade, living at home. So they are moving into one side of the townhome. And she's just so excited. She works for the school district. Well, actually, she works for Sodexo doing, she's a lunch lady, and she has serving the kids and watching them progress through the years, because you get to see the same kids over and over as they advance. So she's excited. She is so excited to get into that home, and she finished her sweat equity, and she continues to come over and try and do more and help move it along. She's like, how do I get this done faster? What can I do? So so we're very excited about that. That's the dedication that we would do hopefully in August. Our other homeowner has a few things she needs to work out first, but hopefully we're going to close with her in January. She is living currently in I should say first that the single mother she was living with both of her daughters in a 350 square foot apartment, which is just tiny. You know, she gave them the bedroom and she sleeps on the couch. And now that it's just 2 of them, I'm sure it seems a little more spacious, but 350 square feet is just not sufficient. That would be difficult for one person. I mean, that's smaller than a tiny home. So, so she's just can't wait to get into that spacious townhome of 1,100 square feet. And then our other homeowner, she is living in a trailer that she does own, but you know, she pays pad rent every month. That trailer is falling apart around her. She has an adult son who has some anxiety issues that complicate her life. Let's just leave it there. And she's given us permission to share this information, so I'm not breaking confidentiality here. But she is older and living mostly on Social Security, but she also does work part-time to help supplement that income, but she's, you know, struggling to make ends meet. And so getting into this home will put her in a place where her son, he doesn't drive, but once they live in Newport, they're hoping he's going to be able to find a job where he can walk to work and help support the family. So this move is a very, very big advantage for them. They don't have any other way to make that happen. And so we look forward to welcoming them to the Habitat family in January, we hope. So.
Lucinda?
Yes.
How does the sweat equity portion work, particularly if someone's like physically disabled or something?
Absolutely. Yeah, our preference is that folks actually help build their own home, because that gives them pride in helping build the home as well as some experience. So if they need to do some minor repairs on their own, they have a little bit of comfort with doing that kind of thing. But certainly not everyone is physically capable of doing that, and we recognize that. So our next best options would be for them to come help out in the office at Habitat or at our restore. There are things that folks can do there with helping with research pricing or filing or cashiering or different things that don't necessarily require all the lifting that you might imagine for a restore position. But if those aren't possible, then we look to other nonprofits. They can do volunteer work with other nonprofits and have that count toward their sweat equity. So for a single adult family, we ask for 350 hours of sweat equity. For a double adult household, we ask for 500 hours of sweat equity. And we try as hard as we can to make it as easy to accomplish that as possible. And some of the things like the training that they're required to do, the financial foundations course, it's an 8-hour course that counts as sweat equity. Last summer, when we were doing some outreach at the outdoor farmers markets and things, they would come and staff the booth with me and share information with folks. That counts as sweat equity. So we really do try to tailor it to what their skills and abilities are. It's a great question, though. Did you have
All
a
right.
question, Mark? Looks like you're muted, Mark.
I did unmute myself. Anyway, how many Habitat houses are there in Lincoln County?
So we have built 13 new construction and 1 rehab that we did out in Siletz. So we've constructed 14 homes, one of which was paid off before I got here. So we have 13 that we currently work with. And then these 2 new homeowners will bring that to 16 total that we've built. So, and that's since 1995. Our goal would be to build an average of 1 a year. We're not there, clearly, but that would be our goal. And I think with the new model of the permanent affordability and some of the funding that's out there, because funding is one of the big things, right? That's part of what slowed us down on this build here in Newport is we raise about half the money, break ground, and then we have to keep raising money to pay as we go. Well, some of those expenses were a little higher than anticipated because of some of the slope of the land and the excavation costs and some other things that were involved, the architecture that was required to build a duplex. We didn't have any plans existing for that. And then once we had those architectural plans, there were just some extra costs that we didn't anticipate. So continuing to raise the money as we go so we can pay for those, that's usually the biggest slowdown for building, is just being able to pay for it. So, but we hope we're on track to be able to average 1 per year. That's our goal.
Lucinda, did you say that there's a minimum amount of time that they're supposed to stay in the home before they sell it? And if you didn't say, is there?
So I didn't say, but so the current model is, they're all 30-year loans. Right now, with the second mortgage, we don't begin forgiving anything until their 6th year of occupancy. And so that sort of helps, it minimizes what any kind of return that they would be able to get out of that home. Because really they would still owe on their first mortgage and anything remaining on the second mortgage. So the way it works with everyone up through these 2 townhomes that we're preparing to sell is they have their first mortgage, and that's based on that 30% of their income. And then that difference between the appraised value and the first mortgage being that second mortgage that gets forgiven over time, that starts being forgiven in the 6th year of occupancy at 10% per year, as long as they're paying their mortgage on time. So at the end of the 16th year, that second mortgage has been fully forgiven. If they sell anywhere before that, the end of that 16th year, or end of the 15th year rather, they would owe everything left on the first mortgage as well as any unforgiven portion of the second mortgage. Now, one thing that we're looking at doing a little bit differently with these townhomes is we're actually looking at 3 different mortgages. The first is the first based on 30% of income. The second would be what the cost to build, the difference between that first mortgage and the cost to build. And that would actually live as a lien on the home so that whenever they sell it, even if they have been there over 30 years, they've completely paid off the first mortgage, the other gifted equity has all been forgiven, that would still come back to Habitat for Humanity at the time of sale. So that helps make it whole between the first mortgage and the cost to build. And then what gets gifted to them is the difference between our cost to build and the appraised value of the home. So they still get to have that gifted equity and build some equity, but it also retains for Habitat that the difference between the two to help us to continue to be sustainable into the future. So there isn't really a restriction. They really could sell in the second year, but there's really, it would be to their detriment. For one thing, you're never going to find a mortgage as low as you will for a Habitat mortgage. You have to be low income to qualify, and based on 30% of whatever that low income is, most people can't rent for that much. So there's no incentive. After the 16th year, there may be some incentive to sell, but really, they're still not going to be able to find housing at that kind of a rate. So the home that's been paid off, I did look that up to see, is it still in the Habitat family? And sure enough, it's not the same owner, but the current owner has the same last name as the person we sold it to. So I'm gonna guess that they sold it to a son or daughter, or a relative that that was also in need of housing. So, other questions?
Well, Lucinda, can you also talk about how like taxes and insurance have to fit into under that 30% too? So our first mortgage ends up being fairly small a lot of times because of that.
It does indeed. So yes, we take 30% of their gross income. We estimate what the taxes and insurance will be for each year. We take that out, and then the difference becomes our principal. So for instance, let's say 30% of their income is $650. So that would be their monthly mortgage. Their taxes and insurance, let's say, comes out around $4,500 between the two of them annually. So we're going to have to subtract that out of their mortgage payment, and the interest, which is something around $350 per month. So that would leave us with principal of about $300. Now you multiply that times 360 payments over their 30-year loan, and that is their first mortgage. That $300 per month times 360, which I'm not really great at math, but somewhere in the neighborhood of $100,000 total is what they're paying in principal for that home over 30 years. And then the difference is that silent second mortgage. Now it depends on where we are soliciting our homeowners, what part of the income range are we looking at. The majority of our homeowners that have been selected in the past have been at the lower end. We used to use 30% as the bottom range. So we would say 30 to 60%. But then the homeowner selection committee was instructed to find the neediest homeowners, the ones who are in the worst housing situation that we can provide the most assistance for. Almost always that ends up being at that low 30% end of the range, which means their mortgage payment is not going to be very high. And there are definitely cases where the silent second mortgage is almost twice the value of the first mortgage that they pay. So we're looking to help balance that a little bit by looking at that 45 to 60% income range for our next homes. For one thing, what I've observed is that those who are at the 30% of median income, they struggle if there's any kind of maintenance issue. I have one of our homeowners who came to me this last week in tears because her hot water heater had gone out, and the estimate that she'd gotten to fix it, one, I think was way too high, and we're recommending she check with some other folks, but it was almost $1,800 is what she told me they had quoted her to replace her hot water heater. And she doesn't have that. There's no way. She says, you know, I'm on a fixed income. By the time I have paid all of my bills, I have about $60 left over every month. I can't afford this hot water heater. What do I do? Right? So we're working with her to figure out a solution, either through our she lives in Lincoln City, so we're able to look to Angels Anonymous, who might be able to help us with the cost of the hot water heater, and then perhaps we can pay to have it installed out of our critical home repair program. So we're looking for solutions for her, but what that means is that if they're too far down the income scale, they're really not prepared for home ownership. They just don't have the means to maintain the home the way it needs to be maintained. I have another homeowner who had a leak issue, and she didn't come to us until it was kind of too late, and it had evolved to a point that now we're going to have to go in and figure out, okay, what can we do to help her with some fairly major repairs. because they don't have the ability to keep the repairs going at these little things that if you just fix them right up front, you can prevent this larger issue. They don't have the means to make that happen. So we're looking to help our homeowners be more successful by raising the lowest part of that bar, so that they have a little more flexibility in there to maintain the home, but also to help our organization to be more sustainable, because the higher their income, the more we get back in principal as opposed to taxes and insurance, which gives us that much more to invest in the next home that we're trying to build. Sorry, that was probably more than you asked for, Julie, but.
No, that was great. It's lots of realities and things you run into when you're trying to do this. So.
Yeah. And, we want to help everybody, obviously. People come to us and they have such great need. And I wish we could help every one of them, but, the reality is we can't. So with home ownership, we can only help one a year if we're doing really well. But with critical home repair, we can help a lot more. So that's one of the reasons why we started that program, is to be able to help more people to be able to stay in their homes and, keep that affordable inventory maintained and out there. So.
All right, well, that's great info. Thanks, Lucinda.
You're welcome.
I was just going to mention that I know that a lot of struggling families out there are paying like 75% of their income on rent. So it's really I think it's really a godsend to have this opportunity, to share with families and really change their lives. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you know of anybody who's struggling to pay their rent right now due to COVID and impact on their income from COVID, there are some funds out there through the Community Services Consortium. So please refer them to the Community Services Consortium to see if they can qualify for some of those funds to help keep them from being evicted.
Well, that was a great program. Thanks again, Lucinda. And as a thank you, one of the things that Rotary's been working hard on is eradicating polio, and we're really close. So as a thank you for speaking today, we're going to vaccinate 50 children against polio in your name. So thanks again.
Oh, thank you. That's very nice.
And I see a familiar face has joined us here from France. Noemi, how you doing?
I'm feeling good. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to see you all.
It's got to be almost, what, 10 o'clock there in France?
Yeah, almost.
Close. Thanks for staying up late and joining us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I'm very late. Sorry.
Well, good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too.
Yay, Noemi.
Hi.
All right, so Keith, I liked your high-tech background to help us raise money for that 50-50 drawing. That was pretty good.
Well, it did bring in a little bit more, so we were a little bit better off than we were before I found that. Our members today, we had about 25 members out of 69 total, and so that's about 37% for the membership. The membership incentive was Carrie Lewis, so she's not here, so it'll be $10 next week. And then on the 50-50, unless we have any late ones, we have $40 in the pot. And I spun the wheel, and Jeff Oderkirk is the bounty winner that runs off with $20 of Vigorish. So thank you, Jeff.
Keith, why don't you put it on toward my Paul Harris or something like that?
Okay, we'll do that. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's about all I have.
All right. Well, thanks, Keith. And how about our John Zagel Award?
Yeah, good news for you, Freddie. You won the social media award for this week.
Hey, lucky me. Well, I'll put that towards our club fund, I think. So
sounds good.
Hey, Freddie, I'd like to make a quick announcement if I can.
Sure.
So I'm the chair of the International Committee, and I kind of need committee members. So Signe is on the committee. But we are looking for people who are interested in seeking out an international project. So if there's anybody on this call and you're interested in the committee, please let me know. Thanks.
All right, well, thanks, Ursula. I think that would be a really fun committee to be a part of. So hopefully you'll get some takers on that. Next week's meeting, we have Kira Morgan sharing the news on Lincoln County. So that should be a good one too. And Keith has some help for us on the four-way test with the background up behind him. He's got all kinds of good backgrounds today. Let's see, Richard, would you mind taking us out with the four-way test?
I'd love to, Freddie, thank you. So the four-way test is the things we think, say, or do. And first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And last but not least, fifth, is it fun?
Fun.
All right, thanks, Richard. Well, thanks everyone for joining us on this week's Zoom. We'll see you next week, and hopefully we'll get back to in-person meetings one of these days, but it's fun to see everybody this way in the meantime. So
Thanks, Freddie.
have a great week.